Hello, students of course 5011, week 11, in which we evidence-based education through some literature in philosophy of education. So this week we look at a critique of most of what we doing this course, critique of empirical research, and specifically in education, and basing educational practice on evidence. So we actually put in question the mere notion of research that look for evidence in order to support practice. We're doing it through, as I said, literature and philosophy of education. And since this is probably new area for most of you, we'll also have a quick and brief introduction to this area of theoretical thinking about education by one of the readings. So we have two readings. The first one is this brief intro to philosophy of education, written by Segal, is introduction of a book. And in this intro, I'm asking you only to read pages 3 to 5. And in this short intro, Segal talks briefly about what is philosophy of education, and the relation between philosophy of education to philosophy, the mother discipline of this specific area. And to emphasize, this is how Segal sees philosophy of education and the relation to um, philosophy. You might agree, you might not, but this is just to give the initiation into philosophy of education. And the second reading is a particular example for a reflection, a paper in philosophy of education, and in this case is by Biesta, a big name in educational theory and philosophy of education. And his paper entitled "Why What Works Still Won't Work: From Evidence-Based Education to Value-Based Education." And the what works here is what Biesta criticizes, this approach of running educational practice, following evidence that finds evidence in research that finds what works. Let's do what research finds that it works. So just give a critique of empirical research in education, and especially experimental type of research, but not only. We actually go back to philosophical considerations of research uh, with which we started the whole course. Besta takes some epistemological, ontological, and what he called praxeological considerations or dimensions of education, and he explains what he means by these terms. He also uses Dewey that we met earlier in this course. So again, the mere notion of finding evidence as support for educational practice. Following these two readings, especially Biesta, our two themes are as follows. So the first one, uh, entitled Evidence versus Judgment, educational, in this case, the meaning of judgment is of professional educational judgment or judgment of practitioners in education. It can be teachers, it can be um, curriculum designers. You might say, and it will be rightly so, that in this case, the judgment is mostly of teachers. And here, I'm asking you to, of course, take a closer look at Biesta Pepper, and he calls for a value-based education, what he called value-based education, and educational professional judgment over evidence-based education, type of education that relies or over relies on empirical evidence. Um, um, and what I'm asking you is whether you see situations where evidence from research prevails, educational practitioners' judgment, or rather you think, agreeing with Biesta, that educational practitioners' judgment should always triumph, or as he calls it, filter evidence from research before using it. So if you think that there is some kind of priority to research, uh, how you will characterize these cases, if the other way around, what is uh, the benefit from research in education at all. In the second theme, I'm asking you to look at Beta's critique through lenses of past readings, and especially um, research approaches that we discussed earlier in the course. I'm asking you to take particular argument, and I'm offering in the prompt two examples of arguments, and you can take others, but pick arguments that you can relate to previous discussions or previous readings that uh, we had. And I'm just throwing some ideas about the political context, for example, or the experimental research, this type of empirical research that is common. And I'm asking you to assess whether um, other research approaches are less susceptible to Biesta critique, and if so, what is the implication for the role um, in practice? So this is this week 11 readings and themes and questions. I wish you a happy week and that you will enjoy your work. I will see you as usual on D2L discussion pages. Bye bye.